Welcome back to the Environmental News Bulletin. First off, I have a question for the immigrants. What do you think about $140,000 for citizenship? That is what the island nation of Nauru is offering. But why? Because they need funding to relocate 12,500 of their population off the coast. While the world debates about climate change being real or not, man-made or natural, the island nation is drowning from the rising sea levels and cannot afford to wait. These funds are supposed to fund their adaptation. By the way, did you know their passport allows visa-free entry into 89 countries? That's more than India. A moment of silence for the river Kafu. A copper mine tailings dam breached into the river, releasing 15 million liters of acid waste into the river all at once. The tailings is where the crushed waste ore is stored in the form of sand. Typically, this is a valley that is filled in, and mines themselves are often located near rivers. There's an entire profession around mitigating and treating not just the water that is found in the tailings facility, but also just the reclamation of the mine tailings facility. To speak briefly, a sudden release of this untreated water is devastating to the river or any water supply that is supposed to be fit for life or consumption. All right, moving on now, let's talk about heat. Summers are coming and there's a grim reality that we have to face, especially in India. India is going to get hotter and hotter, and it's already quite hot in some parts of this place. Believe it or not, pollution has so far lowered the amount of warming that India should have experienced. But that will only last so long, and studies are now suggesting that sooner or later, that heating is going to catch up in the next 20 to 40 years. But of course, 20 to 40 years is a long time. But that doesn't mean we'll be able to escape it, because the next research has now quantified that heat actually ages us. So here's this study that looked at heat stress and aging. And they found that over 6 years, the people under long-term heat stress were aging on average to 8.48 years in the same 6 years. Now, particularly this is biological age. So it is how our biology, especially our DNA, breaks down with time, or as we know it, aging. This is something we can't escape just through lifestyle. Moving in next, we have big money Microsoft coming to India with a 30-year afforestation plan. They will engage in afforestation and in turn buy carbon credits. This is kind of interesting because the US is going towards more oil, and I think in my next coming video essay, I'm going to cover more of why that is happening briefly. And then one of the source materials I want to dive in greater might offer some insight why the US has been investing more and more into oil while Trump's talking about it, why Warren Buffett already invested in it for the long term almost 2 years ago. But then why is Microsoft going this way? And, I think there's more to do with the EU, and it may give us some insight into where the markets are expected to head over the next 30 years, I guess. Now tell me, do you know what this is? Maybe not. How about now? You probably recognize this meme. This is the blobfish. It typically lives under very high pressure at the bottom of deep ocean depths, which have a lot of pressure. But when it does come to the surface, the fact that it gets depressurized and it doesn't have a lot of bone in it, it tends to deform, and we get this sight, which kind of made it a meme, but also gave it the tagline of ugly. But I have good news. This normal looking fish, which is definitely not ugly, has now been titled New Zealand's Fish of the Year. And this is kind of sweet to see. This was your Environmental News Bulletin. Be strong, be kind, and I'll see you next time.